Hi friend, I'm Lydia and I sew things. Today is going to be the first video in what I'm calling Sewing 101, and we're going to talk about fabric, mainly woven fabric, and I want to make this as easy to understand as possible without getting too much into details because I can do that. When I was in fashion school, we went through this whole book and studied textiles and the different fibers that make them. But if you are just looking to learn how to sew, it is important that you understand your medium or your fabric, what you're working with. You don't need to read a whole textbook, but that's a good book. That's what we studied. Fabric generally comes in different widths. So the first thing I want to talk about is what that means. So the selvage is the end of the fabric of the loom where it is created, and I am going to go into more detail in a minute. But when you buy fabric by the yard, it is measured from the length of the selvage, okay? And how wide it is from cottons is usually 44-45 inches. Other fabrics that are usually like on big rolls, those are can be 57 to 60 inches wide. Generally that's referred to as double wide, but that is how fabric is sold. So if you look online or when you're shopping and you see, oh, this fabric is 44 inches, then that's one thing to look at for whatever project you're working on. So when it's measured and you buy it by the yard, it's based on the selvage length, and then there's the width of the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more into how to lay out your fabric, when to cut it, and how to understand the grain line a little bit. But again, I'm going to make it as simple as possible. So please keep watching, and I hope you enjoy this series, and I just love teaching the information to you. So yeah, keep watching. Let's get to it. Don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get to it.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about putting your fabric on grain. Basically, when woven fabric is made, you have yarns that are attached to a loom on the selvage. Okay, so the selvage edge will look something like this on most woven fabrics. So this is where the threads are held together. So you have threads that go like this and threads that go like this, and then they intersect. Okay, and this holds them together. So when you're putting something on grain to make a garment, you want basically to straighten that grain, because sometimes after you wash it, or if it's been sitting in the store for a while folded, it distorts. Okay, so right here you can see, if I line this up, even the selvage is a little off. So what you would usually do is you cut off the selvage, and then you kind of line it up and see if it's straight. So I'm looking at this corner right here, and there's my straight line, and you can see that it's not lining up here, okay? And then one thing you also should be doing is cutting the fabric, because when they cut it at the store, it's definitely not cut on grain, because when they use scissors, it's already warped, and it's off. It's always off. Okay, and basically what you want to do, if you see that, oh, it needs to go up a little bit, so you take your fabric and you kind of pull it. Okay, kind of pull it like this, because this is going to have it kind of straighten up your grain a little bit. Okay, and then you keep doing that until it's pretty much straight. And that is when you press it. I mean, you see right now, it's not pressed, because once you press it, it kind of sets in the fibers a little bit too. So you play around with it. See, you can stretch it this way, it's going to grow that way and whatnot. So before you make a garment, it's important that you do that. And the grain, when you hear people say grain, or make sure your fabric's on grain, you also want your patterns. This is the grain line. They're all going to have A good pattern is usually going to have a grain line, and it's going to be either something like this or just a straight line with arrows, and it'll be labeled grain line. So this is always going to be parallel to the selvage, okay? So it's always going to be parallel to the selvage. All right, so that's how you place them. And then let me show you this one. This little piece has already been put on grain. So you can see it's nice and straight. Let me move it. These cutting mats are great because the grids just really help you put everything on grain. So see how it's nice and straight. So once I straightened it out, I pressed it, and then I came back and check it. And if it's still a little off, then you can like move it around a little bit. And then that's it, okay? So, oh, and then one other tip to know whether your fabric, where the grain line, like, oh, where is it? I can't see the selvage, because I cut off the selvage on this so that I could actually make it nice and straight. The selvage, or you're always going to know where the grain is, because the grain line's always going to give a little bit more than the cross grain, okay? See right here, you can tell when you tug it a little bit if it's stiffer, okay? Okay, so here, it's right here. So it actually should go like here. So this is what goes across the body, okay? So basically this would go like this, okay? All right, so that's very basic without going into too many details about the grain lines, okay? Okay, so we're gonna show you how to start to put your fabric on grain. With wovens, especially cottons, you wanna wash them. However it is you're gonna treat them with regular use. Okay, so this one is, I washed it and dried it, and it's cut the way it was cut at the store. It's a little remnant I found. Okay, so what I start with doing is I cut it a little bit, okay? So I go in a little bit, what's that, like a 1/2 inch? All right, and because it's woven, you can just tear it, okay? Tear it. All right, so look how off it was cut. I started one end just a little bit, and then on the other end it ended up like this, okay? So that's how off it is. And by tearing it, because it's a woven fabric, the little tear is going to tear nice and straight on wherever it is the cut was on the loom or from the selvage edge where it was made. Okay, so when you see people that sew tearing their fabric, that's why they tear it, because one, it's super easy to cut and make sure it's cut straight, and then it's put on grain, or at least that side, you know, is nice and straight. So then you can use that side as a guide to straighten your fabric, okay? So okay, you just start pulling and then do a little light steam so that you have a straighter edge than that. But that's just, this has been sitting for a while. So, but this is how you can see how you can get started on putting your fabrics on grain, okay? All right.
Okay, so here I just went ahead and cut into the other side because I want both ends of my fabric to be straight. So what happened here is that I didn't cut in far enough, so I went into the other side so that I could go ahead and tear it so it was even. Basically, the other side I had to cut in more, but I didn't want to waste too much fabric. And now I'm just laying it out and using the grid lines just to see and make sure it's straight. So I'm just using those as a guide. And then I can adjust it if it wasn't straight, pull on the bias a little bit, but it's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do after this is take it to the steam iron. And so here you can see it's been pressed and it's a lot straighter. And I'm just checking it just to make sure it's straight and it's okay. It's looking pretty good. So that's pretty much the process in getting it on grain and making sure it's nice and straight.
Okay, I wanted to jump in here and do another example. So here I went ahead and cut the selvage from both selvage edges, and you can see this one is warping this way a little bit. Okay, so I wanted to go that way. So I'm going to pull on the bias. Look at this. And there's no like exact science to this. You just kind of play around with it until you get it right. Or as close to it. Because the other thing too is that you can mess with this as much as you want. And sometimes it just never gets perfect. Like your fabrics just, some fabrics just super stubborn. So there we go. That's a little better. So I'll pull on it some more. Go. So it is, see, now it's a little bit straighter, like that. Okay, so once you get it to where you want it, then that's when you iron it, okay? And you can spray it a little bit with water to help it set a little bit too. But yeah, just hopefully that helped you see the straightness of it a little bit better.
Okay, so some final thoughts on putting fabric on grain. This was meant to be just an introduction, something to get you familiar with how to cut your fabric, how to set it straight. If you're working on something that's very basic, like one of my basic tutorials, like the pillow or the tote, don't get too hung up on your fabric being super straight. Like if it's gonna be a deterrent to get you to sew something, I don't want you to like worry about it too much. Down the road, if you're working on another project that you're gonna spend more time, like a corset or a dress, then it's worth it to spend the time to put your fabric on grain. So that's that. Ask any questions. I'll do my best to answer. But thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like my video so that I can make more stuff for you guys. So thanks a lot. Bye.